Welcome back to Catholic Lunch Break here on AM 1430. This is Wyatt Goolsby here with our weekly program. This is a program, of course, where we highlight Catholics in the greater Houston area who promote the values of the church, and that also includes how we invest our hard-earned dollars. So joining me on the program to talk more about that is Louis Pelz and John Barry. They are with Core Capital Management and Research. Of course, Lou and John are also very active here in the Catholic community here in Houston. Welcome to both of you. Thanks so much for coming here to the studio and being with us. Let's start with you, Lou. I know that I've met you, seen you at St. Michael the Archangel Catholic Church. How long have you been going to church there, and how have you participated in the parish life?
Well, I started as a parishioner there in 1983, so I guess I've got a little time there. I've enjoyed being a parishioner there and supporting the parish. I'm an acolyte in the parish, and also been on the pastoral council along with John. We were on the council together. I've had quite a bit of involvement through St. Michael's and the Catholic community. I've been on the board of the Christus Foundation now for, I think, 12 years. I'm currently on the board of St. Dominic's Village, a Catholic retirement community.
Very good.
I've been on the advisory board at the University of St. Thomas for probably 12, 14 years. I've been chairman of the investment committee at Christus and on the investment committee at the University of St. Thomas as well. I'm also a Knight of the Holy Sepulchre and a Knight of Malta.
Very good. Excellent. John, let me ask you some of the same question. How long have you been going to church at St. Michael the Archangel?
St. Michael's has been my church forever. So I was born there and went to grade school there, met my future wife there, actually. All of our kids have been had their sacraments through there as well, and our wedding was there. So, no, it's always been home to me.
Very good. Excellent. So let me ask you both about the work that you do here, Core Capital Management and Research. John, just give me a little bit of background about the company.
Well, actually, Lou is the founder of the company. I'll let him speak to that. But actually, I found it through our church, actually. I was in the business and met Lou there and talked to him over time, 20 years ago now, and was so excited about it, I joined up with him. But I'd like you actually to talk about how you got it started.
Yeah, at first, 1997, I was a managing director of a Wall Street firm, and at that time I decided to go out on my own and started literally with no money, just what I'd saved, and no family money, just started an investment company and started gathering people together based on my experience that I'd had previously. Met John initially at St. Michael's. He'd had one child. I'd see him in the cry room, and then he'd have 2 and 3. So tell him how many kids you got now.
Well, I was actually in the diaconate program through St. Michael's until our 5th child was born. And then they said, you may need to take some time. And then when our 6th child was born, they said, no, you need to focus on
really need to
So, yeah, we've got 6 kids ranging from, I've got a 22-year-old daughter that just moved out on her own, down to a 3-year-old whose birthday is today. So we've got a huge range of kids.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And I'm sure it's such a blessing to have that kind of a family.
It's wonderful. It's just joy all the time. It's great.
Yeah. So, Lou, I was going to say, back to the story here. By the way, any trepidation here creating this company? Seems like, I'd be a little bit nervous when you're kind of creating something, not a whole lot of...
Not really. I mean, for me, it's never really been about the money, or I've always felt pretty secure that with my Catholic education that and having a liberal arts education that I could find a way to make things work. I didn't really worry, concern too much. I had a lot of faith. And I just believed that as long as I was trying to do the right thing and continued to put forth my best effort, that it would work out. So, yeah, I didn't have too much concern about it, really. I didn't probably make, let's say, if you wanted to view it on the amount of money that you could make by working for a large firm with not very many moral restrictions compared to going out on your own and trying to do it in a faith-based manner, yeah, you give up a certain amount of earthly material goods to do that.
Right.
But do you sleep well at night? Yeah. Do you have peace of mind? Yeah. Do you have a lot of really good friends and people that respect? Yeah. You have all that.
I imagine that's true for so many Catholics here in the greater Houston area, whether they go to St. Michael the Archangel or so many others, parishioners who, they've really thought about what they want to do for work or a company that they want to start or get involved in, and whether that's consistent with their Catholic values, with their Catholic faith. And I can imagine for you, John, much of the same is being able to work like that and know, okay, this is consistent with what, my core values are, core values of my family.
It really is. And with the family, going back to the kids, they're watching everything you do. And so I can tell them all day long what the church teaches and what we should believe. But if they're seeing what I'm doing, and if I'm doing something counter to that, that's the part they're going to pick up on. So no, it has to, and we know our faith has to inform every single thing we do in our life.
Yeah. Lou was talking a little bit about all the different activities that he's been involved in over the years in the Catholic community. I'd mentioned that, again, you got your family, you go to St. Michael the Archangel, other activities in wider Catholic community here?
Yeah, there are. So I'm also an acolyte. I mentioned I was in the diaconate program for a while,
right,
and I'm focusing on the family at this point. I do a lot of speaking at RCIA, at St. Michael, and at different churches around the city. I love talking about holy orders and matrimony, obviously, but then really any of the sacraments. I love going to speak on that and what Christ is really offering to us there. And then I'm also involved in the different Catholic schools that my children attend. I've been on those boards and always involved in the different activities there, and it's just a great way to be in the community all the time.
Let me follow up with you on that because, of course, here at the Guadalupe Radio Network, we love to support vocations and for people to consider discernment, what they want, what God wants them to do in their lives. When you talk with people who are going through RCIA, still kind of trying to figure out the church, trying to figure out where they're going in their lives, what's some of the advice that you tend to give them, or even just some of the answers that you give them?
Obviously, prayer. Just pray, and if you don't know how, just try. Just do anything. It's there's no set formula for it, but then be open. And and I struggle with this, obviously, is I'm talking a lot here. Just listen. Be quiet and just listen and see if you can hear what God's saying to you. But the fact that they're already in our RCIA, even if they haven't made the decision, it means they're already open, and so they have this openness that is going to help them in everything they do. And I always find that in my own life and in my children's life. If we can just be a little quieter and be open, then God's there and He's ready to talk to us. So that's the main thing.
That's such an important point because often I talk here on this program about how there's so many distractions in our day-to-day world. Yeah. I can imagine with so many kids, there's the temptation to just be distracted or to be so involved with everything that you don't set aside time for prayer or just quiet time, like you're talking about, just to
right.
think. How are you able to do that and manage all that, John?
Yeah, absolutely. So sports is a big problem, and I've heard priests talk about this. My son is actually very actively involved in sports, in baseball specifically, but we've made it clear to him and all his teams that it's secondary to us at best. Church comes first, our faith comes first, and so the kids see that as well. But then also they have to see us praying and praying as a family. We've also actually started using the modern tools. Hallow is a great app, and they have different challenges that they have, and so we've gotten our kids involved in that, let's all do this as a family and making sure that the kids see that prayer is the number one thing we have to do, and then everything else flows from that. And, we'll talk about investing here in a little bit, but Bishop Barron uses the analogy of the rose window at Notre Dame, that Christ is in the center, and all of the different scenes of the church's life flow out from that. Same thing with us. Christ is our center, and then everything else we do flows out from that. And with investing, it's the same way. It has to come from that center. But if we can keep that in mind all the time, then everything else will find its place and fall in, as long as we don't lose focus there on the central Christocentric idea.
Yeah, very good. Such an important message, absolutely. Lou, I want to follow up with you on that one and just being able to keep Christ at the center of our lives. Like I said, you've been involved in so many different Catholic groups, organizations, and I'm sure in your capacity you've come across people who may not be familiar with the Catholic Church, or they themselves might have questions. How do you begin to explain how important your faith is and how that kind of helps you to figure out where you want to draw your attention to, how you manage your time and your activities?
Yeah, Wyatt, that can be a challenge when you have people that have a different, maybe not their morals are different, but the way that their ethics may be a little different. They may have to decide a different, and even that happens in my own faith. In some of the Catholic institutions, they may think, well, it's okay, this may be okay, or that may, because there's strong forms and weak forms of our faith and people in their decision process and their judgment. For me, I visited with the cardinal about this one time, and I said, how do you deal with people who maybe want to challenge what you say, or he says, the first thing you have to do is you have to look inward. You have to look at yourself, and you have to make sure that you have the right path, and then develop good arguments for what you believe in. And then at the end of the day, your conscience is clear. They're the ones that have to develop their own conscience. But as long as you're making good arguments, as long as you make sure that you've looked inward first to make sure you're not doing anything wrong, and then follow up with good arguments, and then allow it to play out however it plays out.
Sure, absolutely. I want to take a moment before I forget, because I usually ask guests here if they have any favorite prayers or favorite devotionals, things that they like to pray or consider, meditate on a regular basis. So, John, let me start with you. Any favorite prayers or favorite devotionals?
Simple, it's the Rosary.
Yeah,
I love that. And going back to the way Pope St. John Paul focused on it, and I got to pray it with him once, not alone, obviously, but in a large group. Mm-hmm. And when you see him pray it, you see that he was doing it very differently, and that deep meditation and even focus on Christ while you're praying that rosary, that can be life-changing.
Absolutely. Lou, how about you?
Well, I always say a Hail Mary to help me out,
mm-hmm.
but my favorite prayer is the St. Michael prayer.
Mm-hmm. St. Michael the Archangel.
It gives you strength, and I think we need strong leaders. We need people who aren't afraid to stand up for what we believe in. So much of our life over the years has gotten passive, and those who try to hold others accountable have been called haters and been pushed back against them and tried to be discredited. When we have strong leaders and people who speak out for the right thing, I think people are drawn to that. So St. Michael's prayer is always a good prayer for me.
Absolutely. Very good. If you're just now listening, you are joining us here for Catholic Lunch Break on KSHJ AM 1430. This is Wyatt Goolsby. I'm talking here with Louis Pelz and John Barry with Core Capital Management and Research. They've been talking to us all about their faith, and now I want to ask you guys about this document that you wrote called Catholic Values Investing, Aligning Faith and Investments. I think, of course, our faith permeates everything that we do, but maybe people don't automatically think of it in terms of money or investing or thinking long-term about where their money is going. Lou, I'll start with you. How did this document that you and John had worked on composing come about?
There are several institutions that we were involved with that wanted us to help them design a Catholic values investment strategy.
Okay.
So we thought, along with this, we should write a document and have that document ready for them to read so that they could decide what would be best for their particular institution. Mm-hmm. And John's the theologian. I mean, he is very strong in understanding our faith. He's very strong in understanding what the Catholic Council of Bishops, U.S. bishops, mm-hmm. have determined to be what Catholic values investing is. So he really was the spirit behind writing this document, and then I helped him by applying some of the techniques that we could use to invest with this particular style of investing.
And so to that end, John, like I said, you had some quotations here from the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. You guys had carefully looked at what the bishops have said, what the church has said about these topics. What do you think are some of the most important things that people should keep in mind when you talk about investing, staying true to our Catholic values?
Yeah, so what's most important? The Conference of Bishops, they lay out several guidelines, and they call it their socially responsible investment guidelines. I don't love that name because it goes beyond just being socially responsible. I think there's a much higher calling to it. They lay out a few of them. Protecting human life. That's one that we almost always think about. Is mm-hmm. I don't want to invest in companies that are going against my pro-life beliefs. Obviously, I don't want to. In anyone that's promoting abortion, I don't want to give them my money. It goes well beyond that. There's promoting human dignity, enhancing the common good, pursuing economic justice, and then saving our global community. Those are the guidelines, but then it really comes down to a matter of prudence. And so, a well-formed conscience is what leads us in all the decisions in our faith. So we use that to apply it to the decisions we're making in investing. Does this company that I'm giving my money to, does it uphold the teachings of the church? And then the church goes a long step, which I love, that they say that if we can do that correctly, that even the economy can be a vehicle for salvation. And I think that's beautiful. That's really the end goal.
Lou, and all the research and the work that you guys put into this document, what were your big takeaways? Or maybe there's something that you had learned or delved deeper into that you hadn't necessarily thought of before.
I think the common misconception, Wyatt, is that most people believe that if I invest according to my faith, that I've got to take a lower return. That somehow it's a subordinate to what the return would be if I was able to invest in companies that produce abortifacients, or alcohol and tobacco companies, or companies that produce weapons of mass destruction. That if I can't invest in those, that somehow I'm going to lose out on return. And the problem is, once you have that conception, there's nobody around to really explain to them, no, you don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. It's what determines your return is your style of investing. It has very little to do with, if I can buy Altria, or if I can buy Pfizer. It's not what's important in your return. What's important is your return is the method in which you choose particular companies, and the procedures or the factors that you use, the filters that you use. And if you apply those to Coke or Pepsi or things that we know that meet our faith, you can exceed the return that the general market gives. Mm-hmm. So it's important to realize that from this paper, you can find out what your conscience is when it comes to what you invest in. There's weak forms, there's strong forms, there's mid forms. Somebody may think that Exxon, because it's a fossil fuel company, is a company that we shouldn't invest in. But the next person might say, they might say, well, they also produce fertilizer that creates the food that keeps people from starving to death. Mm-hmm. So what is more important to you and to your conscience and your beliefs? And you can find that through reading this paper and maybe doing a little research on a few companies and finding ones that best fit your conscience. Yeah. Or if you want our care, we're always open to answer those questions with people, or help them try and discern and get through it. So I would hope that we would be that for people in our faith, to try and help them understand what's best for their conscience. How can they best deliver that? And whether they do it with us or somebody else, or they buy a mutual fund, there's 45 mutual funds out there that invest just according to Catholic values. Mm. So there's a lot of opportunity. I just don't think there's a lot of education for people to know about. And that's why I appreciate you having us on the show here today.
Sure. I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges in our society today, John, maybe you agree with me here, is apathy, is getting people to actually care about the things that they do, whether they're investing or working on themselves or family life, home life. So first, I want to give credit to you guys for thinking about these issues, and then hopefully people will respond. I mean, they'll be able to think about all these important issues, our Catholic values, and then how that applies to all of these things, because usually it's just trying to get people to understand that this is an important issue.
It absolutely is. And first of all, that it's even an option. That's one. And then that it matters. That's the next thing. That, you may have a small portfolio, you may have a big portfolio. It doesn't matter. But you may have this understanding or this thought that, well, what I'm doing doesn't have any impact on anything. But as Catholics, we know that's absolutely not true. That every little thing we do, someone's watching, or it is making a difference somewhere along the way. And if nothing else, which is even maybe most important, it's changing who we are. And that's really what we're called to do. And then from that, everything else will flow.
Amen. Very good. Well, like I said, I'm going to encourage people to look through this document. You guys talk about, again, the importance of protecting human life, promoting human dignity, reducing arms production, pursuing economic justice, quoting the USCCB, but delving a little bit deeper into what people can do and the options and things like that. So if people want to learn more about this, Catholic Values Investing, give me the website, John.
Sure. We made it available on our website. We're Core Capital Management and Research, so it's ccmr.io/CVI for Catholic Values Investing. So ccmr.io/CVI, and you can download it. Don't have to put any information in, just download it directly right there, and it's all yours.
Okay. And like you were saying, Lou, people can also reach out to you if they're Catholic and might have a question.
Sure.
Core Capital Management and Research. Well, before I let you guys go, Lou, any closing thoughts as we kind of reflect on the importance of being able to invest that's consistent with our faith?
Well, and I think this doesn't only apply to the individual family out there. This also applies to, you should question your university. You should question your diocese. You should question anything that is an aggregate of our charitable funds. Are you invested according to Catholic values? So not only should we challenge ourselves, but I think we should challenge everybody who's in our faith to follow what we've been taught. John always makes a statement. He goes, God didn't call us to be good. God called us to be great. And I think if we really challenge ourselves to be what we can be as Catholics, and we go out there and show everybody in our community how much better we can do because we follow the Catholic faith, I think that'll provide leadership in a better community for all of us.
Amen. Louis Pelz, John Barry, Core Capital Management and Research, thank you both for being here on the program with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wyatt.